All right, let's get into our first big story. The Comptroller General of the prisons, Ahmed, says decongesting Nigerian prisons has become a national priority that requires bold and innovative collaboration between government and non-governmental organizations.
Ahmed says Nigeria cannot afford to have prisons where more than 70% of inmates are non-convicts, and so he called for speedy trial of inmates and quick administration of justice. The points made by the prison's Comptroller General has also called for attention for the plight of prison inmates, especially those who have been denied trial for a long time. And so we're now joined by the founder and director of Prisoners' Rights Advocacy Initiative, Ahmed Adetola. Kazeem, good morning, and thanks for joining us.
Good morning.
On the show. Well, like they say, the way you treat prisoners is a reflection of how society generally sees itself. Am I correct?
Definitely.
So now, out of 70,000, almost 70,000 prison inmates, what you have some 70% of that awaiting trial.
Yes.
What on earth could be responsible for this kind of?
There are a lot of reasons responsible for that.
Yes.
And largely, the office of the DPP of various states. We also have the police being responsible, and some other times
when you say
the DPP would be
the DPP is the Department of Public Prosecution.
Okay.
In the Ministries of Justice. So when the offenses, particularly offenses of capital nature, the police do not have the powers to prosecute such cases. So they are to forward the files of those inmates or suspects to the DPP's office. The DPP's office is to write a legal advice, maybe prosecute or do not prosecute. So you find out that many times when the files, many times the files are not sent, other times the files are sent and the advice are not written. I have cases where, and sometimes when the advice are written, they are not followed up to ensure the inmates are released. I did a case about 4 years ago, and I was representing about 131 inmates who were in prison between 4 and 12 years without trial. So when they were making findings on their files, we found out that advice had been written for about 8 of them 5 years previously that they should not be tried, and they were still in prison for that 5 years. Last year, similarly, I assisted some inmates. Advice had been written about a year previously, but nothing was done until we took up the cases. So that was why I said the DPP is also responsible many times for what we find in the prisons.
All right, now in this whole process, now the prison service is also an institution of itself. And as it is, with so much inmates coming in, the whole place is congested. What role does the prison service play in trying to draw the attention of either the judiciary or the police to this kind of circumstance?
I can tell you that they have been doing that, but they can't do beyond what they've been doing. They do not have the powers to build more prisons. They don't have the powers to release inmates. The court throw the inmate. The court puts the inmates there. They don't have the power. They can only keep them. They can't even reject them most times, except you have underage among them or so people with special circumstances. So the issues is on the table of the government, largely speaking. Presently, the prison service is being monitored or managed or being overseen by a board. And the board is the Immigration, Customs, Civil Defense and Something Services Board, combining different agencies. And the prison is, the duties of the prison is not similar to those paramilitary agencies. So I think one of the first steps the government should take is having a special board to oversee the service of the prison. Because it will appear, from what people say, it will appear as if we have a lot of prisoners in prison. In fact, Nigeria is one of the countries which have the lowest prison population compared to the number of
compared to the
population of the country.
That's amazing. Because I mean, when doing this research and you hear that some 70,000 Nigerians are in prison, compare that to 170 million people.
For instance,
that truly is.
In South Africa, we have about 55 million population, and they have 159,241 prison population. In Ethiopia, we have 90 million, and we have 93,044. In Rwanda, we have 11 million population, and we have 55,618. In Nigeria, we have over 180 million, and we just have 65,000 inmates. So in Nigeria, out of every 100,000 inmates, out of every 100,000 citizens, we have 33 inmates.
Yeah, but that's to say we're not as criminally minded. As
but that is not to say. But that is not
what
to
it
say.
means?
What it means is that.
All right, let me put you on hold. We'll certainly come back to this, Ahmed. Stay with us on TVC Breakfast. We'll go on a break and then we'll be back shortly.
All right, you're welcome back. You're watching TVC Breakfast this beautiful Thursday morning. Before we went on that break, our guest, Ahmed Adetola Kazeem, who is a Prisoners' Rights Advocacy Initiative, just took the wind out of the sail for me. You know, reeling out the ratio between the number of prisoners in Nigeria and, of course, the population
comparing to other African countries.
And I just got excited that, look, we're not as criminally inclined as people think we are. But he said, no, that's really not the case. So what is the case here?
And just on the flip side, while we went on break,
yes,
you know, our cameraman was saying, do we need to commit more crimes? That's by the way, anyway.
Yeah. What it just indicates is that we have a dysfunctional criminal justice system where most people who are meant to be in the prisons are roaming the streets. And those who are not meant to be there are there. Right. And we don't have enough holding facilities that we can put our criminals. So that is just what it shows. And many times also, we sentence people who should be doing community services. So there are a lot of, those are the issues. So it's really
complicated.
Very, very complicated.
You don't have enough holding facilities, not enough prisons. And where you do, you have a situation where first-time offenders, for example, are thrown in the same cell with
very minor offenses. Those who should be cutting grass or cleaning, cleaning government facilities and the likes, you find them in prison spending years, 6 years, 7 years, 10 years, even 12 years sometimes.
But do they still use prisoners to carry out some of these community services?
I think in Lagos State, there have been a lot of improvement over the years. So many magistrates now sentence criminals or suspects to do community service, maybe 4 hours, 5 hours, within the court premises or wherever the officers of the court feel they should do. I think Lagos is moving forward, and when you talk about criminal justice system in Nigeria, Lagos is always taking the lead.
And of course, Nigeria does not have a parole system, or do we?
No, we don't.
We don't. Now, of course, one has come across, certain information that some prisons that were actually originally built to hold some 300 people, in many cases you find up to 3,000.
Yes,
and Nigerian prisons too, before you even respond to that, have been described as breeding grounds for diseases and criminality with huge consequences on, not just the prison inmates themselves, the families, and of course society in general.
Yeah, absolutely right. Most prisons in Nigeria, most prisons in Nigeria hold more than 70% awaiting trial persons. And you find out that most prisons hold more than they should hold, maybe like 5 times more. For instance, I was in Ibadan, I was in Agodi prisons last week, and the prison should normally house about 390 inmates, and you find out that there are almost 2,000 inmates.
Well, which of the prisons?
Agodi prisons in Ibadan. In Kano Central Prison, as of last year, the capacity is 720, and it is holding more than 1,646 inmates. So you find, and that is the way it is in Port Harcourt is worse.
Wow.
Yes, Ikoyi prison is worse. Kirikiri Medium prison is worse. So you find out that is the case there. So most people, many times, I was in the controller's of prisons office about 2 weeks ago, and he was showing him pictures taken in the midnight of inmates. Some of them, they couldn't even lie down. They were sitting down because there was not enough space to lie down. So they had to sit down till the next morning. So you find out that is the situation in most of the prisons, and that is why you have incidences of jailbreak. On the issue of breeding grounds for criminality, I can tell you for free that is the case. There was around 2013, I was doing a case for some underage inmates, underage prisoners who were in prison. We were trying to make a case for them with the Lagos State government. So on one of my visits, I saw one of them in the prisons. He was marketing, or he was selling jedi. Yorubas call it jedi. It's an alcoholic drink.
Okay.
And I said, come, you this young boy, we are trying to make a case for you and you are doing this. Others, people just strong, they just came, they said, he has to survive, and that is why he's doing that. That is just an evidence.
How does he get his goods to sell?
I can't,
that's
another matter for the authorities to look into. They can be sure that is it. There was a case I did. Like I mentioned 8 people that ought to have been released when advice was written. One of them, his name is Godwin. He came out. So a journalist wanted to do a story about inmates' life after prison. So I called the parent, I called the mom to find out how far about Godwin. He told me that Godwin has returned back to prison. That is now in Ibeba prison. That he went to commit a robbery, or he took part in a robbery, and he has gotten back to prison. So you find out that that is the case. Most of them, they get to the prisons, and before getting to the prison, they were not criminals, or maybe let's say adding criminals. But they get there, they get the connection, they get the training, and they become worse. It becomes worse.
All right, talk to us about the board earlier on. You were talking about the way the board is set. What is even the role of the board in the first place in all of this?
The board generally should oversee and see how things can be better on issue of, just like all the issues, they should oversee on issues we have been discussing, on congestion, on seeing to how more prisons will be built, on feeding, on health, and that is what the board should do. But when the board is not just focusing on an aspect, but they are focusing on different aspects of our national life, you can be sure that they cannot fully focus. And it could be that most times the head of the board is the minister of internal affairs.
Yes.
You might not see prison as a priority. It could be immigration, it could be civil defense, it sees as a priority. And that should not be. They should have a board that is fully focused on prison matters.
Is that a function of attitude towards prisoners? Do we see, it's like the whole system itself believes that once you have committed an offense, no matter how grave it is, you deserve to be punished, and punishment would mean getting the most inhumane treatment possible. One has heard of cases where as a prisoner, maybe even sentenced or not, gets into prison, the first thing he's told to do is to carry feces and all kinds of things and all of that. Who is really looking into some of these
treatment
within the prison system? Not to talk of the quality of the food they eat. Some will tell you watery bins.
We even hear there are cases where the inmates have to arrange to have their food
yes,
brought in somehow.
I think generally we need reorientation on how we treat our prisoners, because a society is or should be judged or is judged in sane society by the way it treats its prisoners, because those are the lowest of the low. How you treat them is an indication of how the society is itself, and the health of any criminal justice system is determined by how the prisoners are treated. So I think it's just is from top down. The government must see the prisons as institutions that should be taken care of. We watch prisons abroad. There's this program on National Geographic Channel, Lockdown, and you see how automated their prisons are. You might not find a prison warder going around. It's just from a control house. The gates are open. In Nigeria prisons, in fact, you see a warder stands by one gate, and that stands by the other, and they start shouting, hold it, hold it, hold it. The other one opens. I think it's very archaic. Prisons that have been built since 1816, Cotton Carrefour prisons, Gashua prisons. When I was in Ibadan, I looked at the board and I saw that the prison was built in 1893.
Wow.
No improvement since then.
It's still being like
still
that
the
over
way
the
it was built in this century. So I think we have a lot of issues with the prisons, and the government must start looking at it.
Speak to the whole point of rehabilitation or reformation, not even rehabilitation, and what really should go into reforming a prisoner when he has gone in, whether as a convict or awaiting trial for that matter.
The problem with issue of reformation is that because most of the inmates are awaiting trial, the government is not under obligation to insist, or let me just put it, that is the way it is. They see, even the inmates themselves do not see themselves as prisoners, so to speak. Some of them view themselves as victims of circumstances. And sometimes they are in that state for more than 12 years, awaiting their trial. Sometimes the trials are on, but at very slow paces. The prosecution do not produce their witnesses, and the court do not deem it fit to release the inmate. So it's like that for years. So they do not see it as something they have to do. You understand? They do not see it as having to go through the issue and the rehabilitation, maybe going into a workshop, maybe schooling, because there are some of them who are in the university, National Open University, in the prisons. Okay. But you find out that it's only those who have been sentenced that are obligated to go through this. You understand? So that is why you find out that most of them are not rehabilitated, because in the first place, they are not properly sentenced.
So for these people who were not sentenced, and most times they stay longer than the time they were supposed to be convicted for, if they did get a conviction in the first place, is there any kind of compensation, for them?
Yes.
Are there any cases?
No, there are cases. At least the first set of cases I handled immediately I was called to the bar was cases of people who had been in prison for 13, 12, 11 years. And in one of the cases, we were able to, court actually awarded compensation for them. Okay. And one of the cases, we were able to get compensation, though the matter is on appeal. You understand? We lost in the appeal and we are at the Supreme Court presently. So there are cases where if their lawyers actually file fundamental rights enforcement cases against the government, sometimes they get reward or compensation.
Okay. All right, Ahmed, we'll come back to this shortly. Let's go on a break. But right now, we'll be going out on TVC Entertainment. The viewers there can continue with the program on TVC Nigeria, DSTV channel 418.
You can also go to GoTV 45 and Free TV 701. There's a whole lot more coming your way on the show this morning. Stay with us.
All right, thanks for staying with us on TVC Breakfast. We are, excuse me, we are looking at the rise in the number of inmates in prisons in Nigeria. We have with us in the studio the Director of Prisons Rights Advocacy Initiative, Ahmed Adetola Kazeem. And we have been looking at this generally. Now, Nigeria's first prison facility, known as the Broad Street Prison, was established in 1872 with an initial inmate capacity of 300.
Now, this was after the acting governor of the Lagos colony, who was then a prominent British merchant, formed a police force of about 25 constables in 1861 and established 4 courts. The Broad Street Prison has since been turned into a leisure and arts center. Okay, that's good to know. Known as the Freedom Park.
Freedom Park.
Oh, which now hosts a monthly Afropolitan show where Lagosians and indeed visitors go to test their dancing skills. But what most of them do not know is the fact that the dance floor has history. And it is the exact spot where for many years prisoners were incarcerated.
Right. I remember being to that place several times, and I wonder, well, it's more like a museum, but it used to be prison sometime.
Yeah, the next time you go there, you'll really recall that.
I have a better picture. Now, fast forward a little. In 1972, the Nigeria Prison Service was set up, and since then, there have been massive transformation in this service.
Do not know is the fact that the dance floor has history, and it is the exact spot where for many years prisoners were incarcerated.
Right. I remember being to that place several times, and I wonder, well, it's more like a museum, but it used to be prison sometime.
Yeah, the next time you go there, you'll really recall that.
I have a better picture. Now, fast forward a little. In 1972, the Nigeria Prison Service was set up, and since then, there have been massive transformation in this service. It has undergone reorganization from its modest 3 directorates in 1980 to 6 directorates in 1993.
It now has a structure of 8 zonal commands, 36 state commands, 1 FCT command, 144 prisons, including farm centers and 83 satellite prisons. It also has 4 training schools, 1 staff college and 2 borstal institutions. There is also no doubt that the special prison reform program of the federal government in 1999 made a lot of difference to the structure of the prisons. I wonder if that really has made much difference.
Sure. I'm not sure.
You're not sure of that?
I'm not very sure.
We'll allow you talk more.
We'll talk more on that. The Comptroller General of Nigeria Prison Service, Ahmed, in a recent interview with Economic Confidential, disclosed that more than 68,000 inmates are being held in prison facilities throughout the country as of March the 6th, 2017. And out of this number, 46,000 are awaiting trial and the remaining 21,000 are convicted.
But a retired controller of prisons, Ifediora Orakwe, says the population of inmates is very, very low compared to the total population of Nigeria. He laid the blame at the doorstep of the criminal justice system, describing it as non-performing. According to Orakwe, a population of 180 million in this modern world with a prison population of 6 to 8,000 would indicate one thing, that such a place is without crime. But that is definitely not true.
And that was what we were talking about earlier on.
Yes, Ahmed thinks too.
Now, the Director of Citizens United for the Rehabilitation of Errants, Sylvester Uha, in February, stated that the number of awaiting trial suspects in Nigerian prisons was becoming alarming, saying Rivers State topped the charts with over 3,000 inmates. I remember Ahmed talking about that earlier on. Now, according to CURE, the designated capacity of the prison there is 804, yet the facility is holding over 3,700 inmates, and of the number, 3,200 were awaiting trial and only 469 were convicted, representing more than 87.5% of the total inmates, making it the prison with the highest number of awaiting trial inmates in Nigeria.
All right, so let's bring our guests in here. Ahmed, well, you are on the same page with the Controller General of Prisons there, who says, look, the rate of the number of inmates is too low compared to the former, yes, compared to what obtains elsewhere that you have actually reeled out for us. Now, there are human rights organizations that are concerned that Nigeria, needs a drastic transformation of the prison system that will reflect the international best practices. What are some of those things, really basic things that should be on ground for a prison system to, be seen to be doing what it's supposed to be doing?
First and foremost, build more prisons.
Build more prisons.
Secondly, employ more hands. And another way of going around that is bringing in ICT. You understand, making it functional. Another thing is also the prisons alone cannot operate in vacuum. It has to, the judiciary must also be looked into. Many of the judges are overworked. We are still using manual writing, longhand writing. So there are a lot of problems. I was at the DPP's office in Ibadan for a case that I was handling.
Yes.
So I went there, and when they were trying to check the records, they brought a big book and were flipping through the records. That is very, very archaic. Lagos have moved past that. Once you just bring any document, they just go through, they put into their systems, and it brings it out. It is faster, it is more effective, more efficient. So what I'm trying to draw out is that the prisons alone, if reformed, will still run into this trouble, because they are not the ones bringing in the inmates. The courts are bringing in the inmates. The police are bringing in the inmates. So if we do not reform the criminal justice system in totality, we'll be going back to square one. We build more prisons, the prisons will get filled up, and we will remain on the same spot. So the reformation must be realistic.
Okay. Now, we're still giving you some information here. Now, according to United Nigeria, excuse me, records show that the Kirikiri Maximum Security Prison in Lagos, for instance, is overcrowded by 250%.
Wow, that's
the
massive.
The prison, which was built for 956 inmates, is today occupied by over 2,600 inmates.
Now, most of these inmates are awaiting trial, like you heard before. Now, the figures would have increased now as the statistics were released in October 2016. A cell in Kirikiri prison meant to accommodate 50 inmates now accommodates over 150 inmates, all cramped in together. The inhabitable state of the facilities is, of course, another worrisome issue, as inmates are forced to live under inhumane conditions.
Now, Section 35 of the 1999 Constitution states that a person should be tried 2 months before the day he was arrested. But 80% of inmates have failed to be given the right to exercise their constitutional rights of a free and fair trial. Some have been kept in prison without trial for up to 10 years. And this act represents one of the greatest and brutal forms of violation of the human rights of victims whose hopes of redemption lies in the judiciary, the only hope of the common man.
Of course, that is to say that when a person is arrested, they must be convicted within 2 months,
2 months
of being arrested.
They must be tried.
They must be tried.
Now,
The trial
must commence.
Must commence. So this Administration of Criminal Justice Act that has been, there's been some tinkering with that.
There have been some.
Yes. How has it reflected so far? I mean,
It's yet to be seen, because the Criminal Justice Act is only operational in Federal High Court and FCT Court. So it is not nationwide yet. Though the Lagos State has the ACJL, Administration of Criminal Justice Law of Lagos State, which actually preceded the ACJA, and I know Ekiti also has one. So most courts are still using the archaic criminal code, criminal procedure code in most of the courts. So you can the effect of the provisions of the ACJL is not being felt yet because it is not nationwide.
All right, what is the role of advocacy groups or advocacy bodies that should help put pressure on the system in trying to reform the prison system?
I think the advocacy group have been working, and some of their efforts are yielding results. For instance, in Lagos State, the passing of the ACJL, at the federal level, the passing of the ACJA. So, and also some little reforms we are seeing, like community service in Lagos State. They are trying their best, but definitely we can do more. But we must, to be effective, we must have a government that has a listening ear. No matter how much advocacy groups advocate, it is only the willingness of the government that can actually yield the result. So I hope that this government would listen to the cries of the lowest of the low and make this reform, because in the long run, it is for the betterment of the country.
When we hear of activities of groups such as yours and other NGOs and even religious organizations that help some of these people that are the fringes, is it pro bono? There is a tendency too that in this part of the world we don't have that mentality of giving back to the system. It's obvious that we cannot live the running of prisons alone to government.
Yes.
So how effective is the work you're doing in terms of not just the quality that you get or the result you get at the end of the day, but the whole process? No,
I think it has been very effective. I remember when I started in 2011, and we started pressurizing government, we started filing cases, and we thank journalists too, they were reporting the cases. I think we had responsive government in Lagos, and due to some of those efforts and efforts of others, there was this scheme established in Lagos, Lagos Public Interest Law Partnership. It's a partnership between law firms, commercial law firms, and NGO, where law firms take up cases of indigent people. And I think that has been effective. I hope going forward it can be more effective. So what I'm saying is that the government sometimes, or many times, listen. At least I can talk of Lagos State government. I hope what Lagos State government is doing is replicated at the federal government. We will have that all over the state. All over the states, then we can achieve a lot. So what I'm saying is that NGOs are trying their best, and the effects are showing. It might not, because the problem is so massive. So the effects might appear very minimal, but the effects are.
All right, but before we go, I'd like you to share with us what circumstance led to your organization taking up the challenge of trying to beam your searchlight on inmates and prison inmates?
What happened was that when I was in school, the Muslim Society of Nigeria, which I was a part of, we visited prisons. So then I made a vow that when I'm called to the bar, because when they narrate their situation, you sometimes you cry, you shed tears, and it's not about shedding tears, it's about assisting the system. So when I was during my service here in Abia State, I did some pro bono works for prisoners in Abia prisons, with doing also some other community service in the community, and I was the best youth corps member for my state that particular year. So leaving, I had a rethink. I said, have I done this for the award alone? I think it shouldn't stop there. So when we get out, we should do more. So I visited the prison with a friend of mine who did similar thing in Gombe State, where he served. So we interviewed the prisons, we liaised with the warders, and we started taking cases. So from then we have been able to assist over 100 inmates far over 100 inmates out of prisons, and we are still doing more.
And how has life been for some of these inmates? If there's any typical story that you can tell us, very quickly before we
because we're running up now. Yeah.
Some of them are living fine.
Okay.
Some of them are back in prison, and some of them are struggling.
Wow. Anyway, that's the summary of it.
Yes.
Well, Ahmed, Adetola, Kazeem, thank you very much for coming to the
so
program.
much.
And we wish you well in beaming such light and putting more pressure on the system to bring better life for inmates.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you for having me.
Right.
Thank you.
All right, let's go on a break and then we come back to discuss other topics on the program.